William Morrow and HarperAudio present Canary Girls, a novel by Jennifer Chiaverini, performed by Saskia Maarleveld. To Marty, Nick, and Michael, with all my love. 1. August to December, 1914. Lucy. Lucy rested the heavy sack of vegetables and paper-wrapped meat on her hip, reluctant to set it down at her feet beside her suitcase, despite the ache in her arms. She didn't really fear that some hungry villain would dart across the train platform and snatch away her hard-won provisions the moment she relaxed her guard. But with 2 sons and a footballer husband to feed, she dared not take that chance. London had been in a state of anxious turmoil when she and the boys had departed for Surrey 4 days ago. And, glancing about Paddington Station as they waited to change trains, Lucy could not tell whether things had settled in their absence, or had grown more desperate. Less than a fortnight before, Germany had ignored the British government's midnight ultimatum to withdraw its troops from Belgium, plunging Great Britain and Germany into a state of war. Excited, boisterous crowds had filled the streets of London, shouting and cheering and waving their hats in the air. And at Trafalgar Square, 2 rival demonstrations had broken out on either side of Nelson's pillar, one for the war and one against. A vast throng had assembled outside Buckingham Palace, singing "God Save the King" with tremendous sincerity and fervour. The song had dissolved into roars of approval when King George, wearing the uniform of an admiral of the fleet, had appeared on the balcony overlooking the forecourt, where the Queen, the Prince of Wales, and Princess Mary had soon joined him. Lucy and her husband had been at their tan-brick, ivy-covered home in Clapham Common at the time, but they had heard frequent shouts of "War! War!" outside their windows, and learned the rest from the papers and neighbours who had ventured out. Lucy had hardly known what to think. In school, she'd been taught that another major war in Europe would be highly improbable in the future because modern weapons were so dreadful that they served as a deterrent rather than a threat. But highly improbable was not impossible, and now Great Britain was at war. The next morning it seemed that nearly every housewife in England had been seized by an irresistible impulse to fill her cupboards for an imminent siege. Unaware of the rising panic, Lucy had gone out to do her marketing as usual, and had been startled to discover other women bustling about, empty baskets dangling from their elbows, strain evident in their pinched mouths and furrowed brows. Long queues had formed at the doors of several of her favourite shops, and hand-lettered signs had appeared in some front windows announcing that the store had sold out and closed early. After waiting in a queue for 2 hours, and finally gaining admittance only to discover little more than a few bits and bobs left over, Lucy made her meagre purchases and set off for home, uneasy. She could manage tea and supper that day, but what about tomorrow and the day after that? "I hear delivery vans are being ransacked on the streets," Lucy's neighbour Gloria told her later that afternoon, as their children played together in the private enclosed garden all the homes on their block shared. "My sister in Bayswater says her neighbour was on her way home from the shops, arms full up with parcels, when 3 women, complete strangers, accosted her and accused her of hoarding." "Hoarding?" "Exactly. How can it be hoarding if she can carry it all in her own 2 arms? Anyway, these so-called ladies, bold as brass, helped themselves to my sister's neighbour's groceries. The shops may be empty, they declared, but their families wouldn't starve for others' greed. Then they scurried off and left her to carry the scraps home. Didn't give her a penny for what they took, either." "That's robbery," said Lucy, aghast. "Where were the police?" Gloria shrugged. "Guarding the shops or keeping watch for German spies, I should think." Lucy could only shake her head, speechless. Such madness in their own city. And it was only the first full day of the war. Unsettled, she returned her gaze to her sons, who laughed and shouted as they passed a football back and forth with the other children. Jamie,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?